Hi, I'm James Hogan.
And I'm Ben Pendry. Welcome to Cullowhee and the April edition of Western Wednesday.
Welcome to Western Wednesdays. I'm James Hogan, and this is our new 2023 season of Western Wednesdays. It's a new format, and I'm here with our very own Ben Pendry. Ben, welcome to the hot seat.
It's great to be here, James. Thank you very much.
Oh man, this is a new format for us. You know, we've been doing this. We've been doing this live and streaming on YouTube, and Western Wednesday started out with Marty Ramsey on a Zoom call with as many people who could log on, and you know, everybody would forget to unmute, and here we are. We're in an actual studio. We've got actual professionals doing this with us. It's like a whole new level.
It's pretty special having the chance to do Western Wednesdays. Marty Ramsey left an amazing legacy, leaves an amazing legacy for this program. The university wanted to do something that brought people together and kept people connected during the COVID pandemic. And what has evolved from that is a program that has drawn viewership, listenership from all over the world. And we've done programs that have covered everything from the Pride of the Mountains Marching Band to the cost of higher education to the conflict in Ukraine, and it's been pretty amazing. And so I'm thrilled to be a part of the new season, James. Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, yes. And this season we've got some great ideas for people to interview. We've already got a few episodes in the can. We look forward to bringing those to you. And you know, above all, I hope that this shines a bright, happy purple light on Cullowhee, North Carolina, and the amazing people who come through here, the work that they do. People like you, Ben.
I feel that sometimes, and so it is a bright purple light that I feel on my shoulders regularly when you're in the Cullowhee Valley. And so, one of the coolest things about Western Wednesdays for me has been, learning about what it takes to make the world go round and the role that a place like Western Carolina University has in what's going on, both right here in Jackson County and all over the state of North Carolina, and then nationally and globally. And so we get to bring some of those stories.
We do, and if you're tuning in for the first time. So Western Wednesdays podcast, or if you're watching this on video, you can watch it on our YouTube channel. This is Ben and I work in advancement, and so we work with alumni and donors all the time. And the advancement office is really kind of the outward facing office here at WCU, and they don't let us anywhere near the students, that's for the better. But we do get to hang out with these folks. And what I love about Western graduates, first of all, they're not always obnoxiously obvious, right? There are some institutions where you have to put the sticker on the back of your car, and it's really it's obnoxious. Well, it's a little bit obnoxious. Western people are just confident and cool to not have to wave that flag quite so annoyingly.
The quiet confidence of a WCU graduate is really something special, and we know the power of a WCU education in our classrooms and in our hospitals here in North Carolina and all over the Southeast. We also know what the power of that is in communities near and far.
Yeah.
And so when we're able to sit down with some of our alumni, when we've been able to sit down with faculty members that we have here at Western, it really does make that shine through for me, in that we've got something special here in the Cullowhee Valley. We hear it from our alumni regularly when you and I get to talk with alumni and friends and donors and parents and students. We know we've got something special here. One of the quotes, one of the interviews that you're going to get to hear this season is with David Joy. And when he talks about the, Western, it happens in Cullowhee that a student finds themselves falling into the right hands of the right faculty members at a rate that is higher than any other place that he's experienced. I think there's a lot of truth to that. We've got a lot of the right hands here at Western Carolina University, and seeing what they're able to shape and mold and what our students are able to do, it's really special.
It is, and so if you're listening to this or watching this, I hope that you have a chance to find some of those catamounts in your community. My family's only been back here in Western North Carolina for coming up on a year and a half now. But where we moved from was just north of the Charlotte area. And I remember one time, Ben, I went through the parent pickup line at my kid's elementary school, and I was wearing a WCU hat. and there's this car pickup line, and there are like 15 people that are there to open the car doors and get the kids in the car and like cycle you through. And I think 8 of them were Western grads. And so they saw my Western hat and they're like, Western, go Western. And it was like, really? And it was like, and then the next one was like, WCU, Cullowhee. And I've got my license plate on. And it was like, how many people from Western work at this school? And so I asked my wife, who's 2001 graduate, and she was like, oh no, there's like 20 people here who went to Western Carolina. I said, was that on purpose? She goes, I don't know.
It happens everywhere. I was in a reunion event for our emergency medical care program. I mean, if you're not familiar with our EMC program, WCU was one of the first schools in the country where they made it available for you to be able to earn a bachelor's degree in emergency medical care. And we have alumni working in emergency management all over the country. We have alumni working as first responders, as professional EMS workers in county and community government. It's a really amazing program. And I was sitting in this reunion event. And I grew up in Wilkes County, which those of you that know North Carolina geography is situated right next to Watauga County, where there's another very popular state institution.
Unfortunately,
it's a small one. It's in the mountains. Their colors are black and gold, but there's no real comparison to Cullowhee and to Western. But as you might imagine, a lot of people in Wilkes end up there. And so I was in this room, and I'd never really been around a lot of Wilkes County WCU alumni. And so they were going around and doing introductions. And this room of 100 people, I bet 7 to 10 people in that room were from Wilkes County, and they had graduated from the EMC program. It was the coolest thing in the world, and I felt so proud that there they all are. There's the Wilkes County graduates.
They were your people.
They did emergency medical care, and we were able to talk about the West Wilkes Blackhawks, go Hawks. And so it was really cool, and that's a program that hopefully we'll have the chance to feature one of these days too.
Awesome. So this season we've got some great episodes lined up for you, and what we're trying to do is interview some of those fantastic catamounts that are out in the field doing incredible work on a day-to-day basis, whether that's in a classroom or riding in the back of an ambulance, or whether that's out in a production studio somewhere, or in a business, or in a courtroom. We have some amazing alumni doing amazing things, and it's a real privilege for you and me to get to sit down and talk to them. And so this episode, Ben, I just have to ask you, here's my riddle for you. What do Tammy Faye Bakker, Dick Vitale, and Maya Angelou have in common?
Ooh. Well, North Carolinians.
Okay,
no?
It's close. I'm not sure if Tammy Faye was.
I have no idea.
Her makeup was probably from North Carolina.
But it sounds like quite a dinner party.
It is an amazing dinner party if you could have it. I don't think you can anymore, but they all were on the other side of the camera from Will and Denny McIntyre.
Oh, that's amazing. The McIntyres are great.
The McIntyres are amazing. So Will McIntyre, class of 1976 at Western. Denny, around the same time, she didn't actually earn her degree from Western. In her last year, she transferred to Wake Forest and had to get a degree from there, and it was fine. We forgive her. She's still a catamount. Amazing people. And Sam Wallace and I had the chance to drive out to Hendersonville and sit down in their house and talk to them about this career that they've had.
Well, they've had the chance to photograph, to film, to write, to illustrate, and to bring so many stories to life. That had to be fantastic.
Ben, they've traveled to like 80 countries. They've stepped foot on 6 continents, and they have shot the world, and they've shot some of the most famous people that people in any generation would recognize. And now they are producing a PBS episode with Rhiannon Giddens that is really focused in pretty tightly on some amazing music. That comes after another PBS show that they did with David Holt.
The David Holt one. Oh, yeah.
Amazing.
Love me some David Holt bluegrass.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's your neck of the woods too, right?
Wilkes County, home of Merlefest.
Exactly.
Yep. Coming up.
Yeah. So we talked with Will and Denny about how they got into their whole career. I mean, they were English majors, for God's sakes, like me, like, oh my gosh. But they were also very quickly, they became entrepreneurs, which is, that's a tough business to hack it out in. So we talked to them about that. We talked to them about their transition into the film world. So Ben, let's kick it off. Let's go out to Hendersonville and listen to me ask questions to these amazing people.
Let's go to Hendersonville. Can't wait.
I figured we could start by just warming up, and you're a class of 1976.
Class of 1976.
The bicentennial vintage.
The bicentennial
the
class.
only way I can remember is my diploma had a little flag, American flag, bicentennial flag on it.
Everything had a flag that year.
That was the
Everything
year.
that is true, yes. And electricity had just come to Cullowhee, so it just
That's right. So you came to Cullowhee in 1972.
72. I grew up in Nash County, down in the eastern part of the state, about an hour east of Raleigh. And so I chose Western because it was as far away from home as I could go and still pay in-state tuition. And then I
It
got...
was a really high-flying intellectual reason
Oh, yeah.
for picking
Oh, yeah.
a college.
Exactly.
I've heard that a lot.
Yeah, I bet you have, yeah. But I got to the campus and just all of a sudden just made friends so quickly. And they're wonderful people. We had wonderful faculty. And it was just a great place to be. And of course, back in the 70s, and you kids at home won't know about this, but back then you did not have, internet, and you didn't have television. We didn't have television. So I made friends with the people on the faculty who played music and the people on the faculty who told jokes, and, people in the student body who could play music and told jokes. And so, it was a great time to be in Cullowhee.
So 1970s Cullowhee. There's still a WWCU FM, right? There was.
There was campus radio.
Yeah.
I can't say I ever listened that much. The other thing that you could get, this wasn't my kind of music, but WUOT
Okay.
was the big FM station. And I remember when you and I first hooked up, which was not, because I came in 73, and then Will and I got together in 75, in the dark room.
Yeah.
Up in old Joyner building that burned.
That's where you met.
That's where Will's darkroom was.
Oh my
A
gosh.
darkroom was a good place to get to know somebody.
They certainly seem like a nice young guy.
We did have privacy. But yeah, that was in Joyner building. But I remember that, Will would be, that summer we both worked for the Associated Press, and I would be working on, I would write, and Will shot pictures. I wasn't shooting then. And Will would be running film. But in the darkroom, we always had UOT on, because they were... And that was the first place when NPR started All Things Considered. That was the first place we heard All Things Considered. It was up there in that darkroom in Joyner building.
With
It was
Bob
a
Edwards.
brand new
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
So let's back it up just a little bit. You met at WCU. You spent time together in a dark room, but you worked a summer for the Associated Press.
We were
How did you get there?
Stringers, just stringers. They didn't have... the western part of the state was not their concentration, but there was a push on to include the western part of the state in their coverage. And I can't remember whether there was AP, UPI, and I can't remember who started it, but if one started, then the other always followed. So one was based in Raleigh, one was based in Charlotte. But we worked mainly for the AP just because we had a friend who worked in that office. And we would do local color. There wasn't a lot of news. And we did maybe a couple news stories the whole time we were working for them. Gerald Ford came to Asheville. We covered that for them. He was president at the time, isn't he? And then there was a flood, and the Tuckasegee flooded, and we covered that. But most everything else was like a wagon train or the Inspirations singing on the mountain. There was a music thing, or
Grandfather Mountain, the Highland Games.
Oh, sure,
Highland
sure,
Games.
sure. Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, we
yeah,
covered
that
that,
kind of
yeah.
thing. So it was, it was a lot of local color. Tubing. We covered the WCU tubing race in the middle of the winter.
This is before Deliverance. So
Yes.
yeah.
Actually,
okay.
when
Not
Deliverance,
too long before.
when Deliverance came out, we saw it at the Silva, at the movie house. I can't remember the name of the movie house.
It was
in
on
Silva.
Main Street, on
Main
Silva.
Street, and they
Yeah.
had when the shot came on that they did of the that was the back street of Silva. Everybody in the audience stood up and applauded. It's really a true story.
That's us.
Look at that.
That's great. I love it. So early on, you were storytellers.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I think that whether it was implicit or explicit, I think that was always the understanding between us, is that that's what we wanted to do with our lives. We were both English majors. I wasn't originally, but I became one. And, we didn't want to teach. So then it's like, okay, what are you going to do? I remember my father asking that question.
Right.
Like, there's not much money in reciting poetry on the street corner.
We'd been married for 20 years at that point that you're still asking the question, but still.
Now, I think that we always intended to travel. That was one thing. And then originally we were working for things like Outside Magazine and, so that we could go. And I think we had this fantasy that we could go out together and do a story. And then we found out that magazines rarely, if ever, the kind of magazines we wanted to work for, never sent out a photographer at the same time as a writer. They would get the whole story in draft form before they'd even think about hiring, because photography was so much more expensive.
Right. So yeah.
So obviously we were not going to be hand in hand through life. We were never going to see each other, was the reality of it. If we stuck to that idea.
And when we first started working together, we'd go out and shoot something, somewhere, come back on the plane, and I'd be relaxing. I'd be like, ready to have a good time and, just relax. And Denny would just start to deal with deadlines.
I would just have notes. I would have notes. So the hard part was just starting for me. Yeah. And, Will, like back then, if you had it, whether you had it or not, when you got on the plane, that was it. You may as well, relax because it's over. So just the whole rhythm of the thing was not what we had fantasized when we were when we were stringing for the wire services.
Will, you moved to Winston-Salem?
Actually, 1 year. We taught. I took a teaching job straight out of. I had a BA degree in English from Western, and I took a job teaching photography at Chowan College in Murfreesboro, North Carolina.
Oh my gosh!
Well, it was 1976, and there was, I don't know if it was technically a recession, but the economy was not wonderful, and in an industry like photojournalism, where there's typically a lot of turnover. That year, nobody who had a job was leaving it. If you had a job, you were sitting on it. So Will hit the job market right at a time when, you interviewed at every newspaper that you liked.
Yeah.
From Murphy to Manio.
Yep, and I knew all the photo editors and most of the editors, and I couldn't have killed somebody to get a job. It was just, nobody was leaving. Everybody was staying in place. So Chowan offered me a job teaching because they said, hey, you've been working for the Associated Press. You look good in a suit. I had a portfolio, black and white pictures.
You were a serious man.
Serious, let's give you a job. So
even in spite of being an English major.
I know. And so, yeah.
Well, so Danny and I were talking earlier. So 2 English majors here do what English majors hardly anywhere do, and that is go into business for themselves. You become an entrepreneur, and which takes some guts, and it takes some guts in a down economy. It takes some guts. These are not completely unparalleled times. There's strife in the world. Inflation is running rampant. You're not certain what's around the corner.
Well, we were going to wait for a good time. We were going to wait for good news. We figured out we'd be like 120 years old if we did it.
So in 1977, we start at the end of his 1-year contract, which school I think was going to renew, but we looked around and settled on Winston-Salem because at the time there were more corporate headquarters there. There's been a huge turnover in that city over the last 4 decades, but at the time we looked at it and saw a lot of corporate activity. So we thought, okay, if journalism is pretty much constipated at the moment. What else can you do? What other kind of photography? And we started thinking about corporate annual reports, corporate photography as freelancers.
And I know you worked with Lowe's companies.
Absolutely.
At the
Because
time
we
they
were
were
there.
up 421 in
Yep.
Wilkesboro.
Yep, 1 hour away.
And it turns out at the time, now things have changed now. It's a very different world. But at the time, we would get assignments from Fortune magazine and Business Week and Forbes and all these other magazines. People
Well,
magazine.
because you went to New York and recruited those.
Spent a lot of time going to New York, but of course they paid in okay. I mean, for magazines at the time, it was okay, but
It was like $250 a day. or
exactly,
something. It
when
was
I
like
first
the
started off.
standard day rate
Yeah.
for Time Magazine,
Yeah.
Fortune, Forbes, all those Time Life.
and of course it went up over time. But that's what they were paying at the time a little bit, and so we would go in and shoot these CEOs at these various corporations, and if they liked our work, then they would a lot of times call us back to shoot their annual reports, and of course that paid a whole lot more than $250,
Who was that
$300.
guy that shot that picture of me that I liked in Money Magazine? Get him.
I looked really good in time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Bill Cecil, at Biltmore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Good
did
example.
a
Yeah.
shot of a couple generations of Cecils, and they liked that. And we ended up, a few years later, doing a whole big ad campaign for Biltmore because the Cecils liked their picture in the magazine.
So once again, we've kind of skipped ahead, right?
Sorry,
no, that's fine. That's great. But
It's a challenge for the editor. I'll say that.
our audience may not understand yet that you've shot for Fortune and for Time and and Money.
That was a result
and-
of going to New York. We had a couple of apartments in New York that we shared with other out-of-town freelance photographers. So at the time, there was no such thing as a website. We're talking late 70s, and early 80s.
There's no such thing as a web except for
There
spiders.
was.
Yeah.
Military and
Yeah.
academia had,
That's true.
the internet, but normal people did not. And so you had to go to New York and show your book, so-called. That was your portfolio of stuff.
And how did you get from Edenton or Chowan to Winston to gosh, what we have to do is we have to get on a plane and go to New York with a book.
You know what?
We have to get a book.
$29 round trip New York Air from Winston-Salem
Piedmont
to LaGuardia.
Airlines or-
No, this is New York
New
Air.
York Air.
New York Air.
Was
New
a
York-
thing.
oh,
It was a
okay,
thing.
okay.
I'm not kidding. $29 round trip Winston-Salem to LaGuardia, and it ran like I don't know, almost every day.
Yeah,
There was some kind of airfare war on.
Yeah. And
It cost more to get from LaGuardia to Midtown in a cab than it did to fly to New York from Winston-Salem.
True story.
It was the
Piedmont Triad.
perfect time. The timing could not have been better.
So, and at the time, there were tons of photographers in New York. We weren't trying to get work in New York because, let's face it, the best photographers on the planet were there already.
Sorry,
we
LA.
realized, and this is a thing that still guides us to this day in our business, is like Babe Ruth said, we try to hit them where they ain't. The editors in New York did not need a photographer in New York. They needed a photographer in North Carolina or in Florida or in Tennessee.
They knew North Carolina was somewhere between New York and Florida. And they thought it'd be good to know somebody there.
Yeah. So that's when we started going up and pitching our stuff, and people liked it and started calling.
So we would go from Nashville. Will did a lot of jobs in Miami while I was still at Wake Forest.
Mm-hmm.
So he really did go all the way to Florida.
And even down in the Caribbean. So
Well, Argentina actually, if you count that.
That was great. We were working in Salvador da Bahia in Brazil, and the editor of Fortune called and said, "Hey, there's this big boat coming through the Panama Canal, and it's going to go to Argentina. You guys are close to Argentina, aren't you? Being in Brazil."
We're in Rio de Janeiro.
Yeah.
We're in Rio.
That's right. We're in
Carnival
Rio, not-
or
that's
something
right.
like that.
And of
for
course, we're
adventure travel.
wearing shorts and T-shirts and
We're in swimsuits, and they're like, "Can you go to Bahia Blanca, Argentina?" We're like, "Where is that?" On the edge of Patagonia. I guess we can.
yeah, sure. And we were closer than anybody else, so we went. And of course, first thing we did was we landed. We were freezing. We went to an Army surplus store and bought all this.
Argentine Army surplus store.
Wool. I still got that wool. It makes you scratch just walking
It's
by.
like
It makes you just-
K-Pock, things that were like stuffed with K-Pock.
Oh my gosh.
It was really like really military surplus. But, compared to New York, we were close.
Yeah.
So you're in your 20s at this point.
Yeah.
Still.
And
yeah.
and
This could be a long ass interview.
I know. we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
Are you rolling? Are you?
They start blinking when they
Yeah,
run
yeah,
out of.
that's right.
You know, he's got a 50 terabyte drive in there.
It's nothing. We could fill that up.
Is there a moment where you look around and think, we're making it? This is really a thing. We're being successful here.
Every time we paid the rent.
Wow.
Every month. Okay, we
The
made
check
it for another
cleared.
month.
We're making it.
Seriously, I mean, it's if you want stability, do not go into this business. It's there's some spooky moments, but yeah, like Denny said,
We're incredibly fortunate.
Yeah.
I gotta say, this is not like victory through sheer merit of talent. It was not that.
But more than opening up, going to the newsstand and getting the magazine and looking and seeing your words
You're
and your
right.
images.
Of course, you're right.
I
that
mean-
was validating
Oh,
too.
That had to be incredible.
The best
That
thing was
was.
being on an airplane and there'd be somebody, across the aisle opening up People magazine and they're 2 photographs that you did and you always wanted to go, that was me. I shot that. Yeah.
on your
Excuse
way
me,
to
sir.
the bathroom.
Yes, right. Sorry to bother you.
Oh,
but
sorry. Sorry. Oh, by the way, that's my picture.
And did you go out and buy every copy that you were in? Like,
would you like to have some? We have our
You have
barn.
extra-
We've
We
got.
made that mistake a couple of times,
Yeah.
and then
We got
it got to be
20
a fire hazard.
Our first big cover I think was Jim and Tammy Baker.
Wow.
And
People
that was, in
magazine.
fact, Jim and Tammy Baker was the first assignment we ever did for People magazine. And I had just gotten back from New York, and the editor at People magazine at the time, John Dominus, said, "I'll be calling you." I thought, sure, yeah, right. And sure enough, we got home and the phone rang, and it was John saying, "Hey, go to Charlotte and photograph this guy Backer. It's Bakker." And I said,
Backer.
I said, I think it's Baker. Okay, whatever. He said, go there and photograph. And he's got this thing. It's on something you
It's
call
got a
cable.
show.
It's got a show
It's
on cable.
A cable network.
Try to get a picture of the cable if you can. There's no live.
Seriously,
And I
be
saw,
sure you get a picture of the cable.
Yeah. And I said, okay, right. So we of course go down there and hell, I'm a dumbass. I didn't know what a cable was, So I asked
I mean,
these
they
guys.
did kind of have like computer
Yeah.
for their call center, their little own call center.
But then
and
they
had-
showed us the satellites. They had like an array of satellites.
Right.
5 or 10 or 15 of them up there. So that's one of the
But then
places we
everybody
shot
in
it.
Jackson County had big satellite dishes then too, if they wanted to get television at all,
Sure,
because those
sure,
were
sure.
the days.
This is the 1980s.
This is early 80s, yeah.
1979 actually.
Oh, okay.
I
So
think 80 was the first cover, and
Yeah.
and that's the Bakers were probably the biggest media sensation in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Totally.
that was a recurring source of income for us. Were Jim and Tammy? They were
Go down and
Bogus religion has been very good for us. Yes.
It was there's a lot of money to be made in religion.
Well, that was the other wire, the cable that came in, right?
Yeah.
To the
Yeah.
bank account.
Yeah, but actually, because they liked us and they liked the pictures that we did when they got into serious trouble, we got sent back down there and they welcomed us in. They were very nice. And so that's when we did another cover.
Well, I mean, by then I think that they felt like they knew us, and there was a comfort factor. There was a kind of a trust, even that we weren't out to make them look a particular way. We were really just out to, catch up with them, whatever was going on, and right up to the end, like I think the last thing we shot was that last cover when they had been, the court had a restraining order. They weren't allowed to go on the property of Heritage USA, So we took them up to this hill. There's kind of a pasture overlooking their former empire, and I'm going to go stand out in this field, looking like people in exile. They were just exactly how they felt, and I think it was the last time that we shot them.
So I had it in my notes, tell us a fun, you've shot lots of celebrities over the years, and tell us a fun story about shooting a celebrity. And that this may be the one, unless you have another one. But
Well, I mean, those ones, like, we really did Bakers a lot, but I think Randy Travis, that was a fun shoot.
Randy Travis was fun. Dick Vitale, we're big sports
Dick,
fans.
yeah.
Dick was a great guy, and
Sweet.
and he knew who Henry Logan was.
No, yeah, of course he did. Yeah.
When he found out that I went to Western Carolina, he goes, "Henry Logan! Oh my God, what a player!" And and he would tell Henry Logan stories. I mean,
I think he has a memory like yours for names.
I wish.
Because I'd be snapping my fingers, going, that great Western player.
Yeah.
So what was it like shooting Dick Vitale?
Just exactly the way he is. His on-camera personality, he's absolutely authentic. He is the nicest man. I think it's kind of ironic in light of the fact that he's had such problems. I think he just beat throat cancer of some kind.
Yeah.
But the last time we shot him, we were having dinner with him, and I had a killer sore throat. I thought I was coming down with, just a cold probably. And he was so concerned. We had dinner
at Washington Duke Hotel down in Durham.
It's like one of the few places you could eat, back then. Anyway, we were having dinner with him and one of the coaches or something, and he had to sent back to the restaurant kitchen for hot water and some lemons and some honey, and he made up this little tisane, like right there at the table, and it's like, drink this. This will make you feel so much. But drink it, try it, keep on drinking it. Don't.
Because he would know.
Because he knew, but he's just a sweetheart.
And so, it was a Carolina Duke game, and of course, we photographed him with all the students from Duke picking him up and carrying him through the crowd.
Surfing.
That was one of the
mosh
first
pit.
times that anybody had ever shot that. Now everybody tries to do it. But anyhow, he loved that. And the next morning, game plays, and I forgot who won, but the next morning at 6 o'clock.
Was it Duke and State?
It was Duke in Carolina. Next morning at 6 o'clock, we're on a flight out of RDU going to Atlanta. We get down to Atlanta. Dick and I are having breakfast there on the concourse, and this coach walks by 20 yards away, and Dick goes, hey, coach, come here. I want to ask you about," and he wants to ask him about some kid that's in like the 8th grade.
Some prospect, yeah.
And I mean, that's the kind of guy he was. He
knew
is
everybody.
Yeah.
He knew where they had been before.
Yeah.
Where their fathers played high school ball. I mean,
It's like the Bill Clinton of college basketball.
Oh, totally.
He had the right talents for that job.
Right.
There are guys in baseball who can do the same thing, who just can put their their mental finger right on the stat that they want to illustrate a point, and he's just a genius for that.
Yeah, he's great. I'm glad he's still on the air.
So it was a luxury in a way that we always had time to get to know our subject at least somewhat, to actually talk to them, to kind of feel them out, see how they would like to be seen.
And there's nothing like spending time with people to figure out, okay, this person may be doing really well right now at the top of his, making a lot of money, but wasn't always that easy,
Generally, the longer someone had been in the public eye, like the bigger stars were always the nicest people. And the ones who were less confident were also the ones who were harder to, to relate to, or harder to work with, harder to work around, because they were a little bit more, because they were unsure. They tended to be a little bit more aggressive, or a little more confrontational or adversarial when it came to. They weren't that comfortable. Sure. People who had been through it, hundreds of times, to them it's just, "Hi, would you like a cup of coffee?" I mean, like Maya Angelou, we lived about a half mile from Maya Angelou in Winston-Salem. So we could shoot her all the time. And she was a lovely person. She could put you in your place if she thought that you were not, being respectful. Not putting her on a pedestal, but she didn't want to be treated like fruit in a bowl, and she wasn't going to tolerate it. And but she also was a neighbor, so she was somebody that it was always interesting to shoot, because she knew everyone. She had interesting stories. She had great parties at her house. We'll tell you about her Thanksgiving party, because I wasn't there, but this was great. And then she had a wonderful art collection. She collected African sculpture, and she had like a sculpture garden in her backyard. And she could tell you about all of the artists and the provenance of each piece. And She's just wonderful. Tell them about the.
So People Magazine assigned us to photograph the Thanksgiving party that she always had every year.
This was just you. I wasn't on this one.
Yeah, and yeah, you were somewhere else.
I was in school.
Yeah. So I went. The party would start on Thursday night, and then be Friday and Saturday. So it was like covering Mardi Gras. I mean, it's like, and so the first day, I went over there and she's cooking. She's got her.
She would put tents. I mean, she had just like a regular split level. It wasn't a fancy pants house. It was just a regular house. But she would put tents in her backyard because she's going to have all these people.
She'd have 200 people. And so, through her, I got to meet Norman Lear, Oprah, Gayle King, Jesse Norman, Ashford and Simpson.
Angela
Davis, Amira Baraka. I mean, it was Toni Morrison. And so we photographed all those people who came to the party. They're all hanging out and her
dancing.
son.
I mean, she'd have music. Oh, I mean, because these people were.
Yeah, Nina Freeland played there, and of course Ashford and Simpson. Jesse Norman would sing a song or two. I mean, pretty darn nice party.
That's a party.
That's a party. Yeah,
It was a party. And there was a reason, that it went on that long, because these people didn't all see each other all the time, but they would come together here, and it was kind of like a, really long wedding reception where you don't leave until you've seen everybody, like really talk to them.
And so I was trying to be like discreet and stay out of the way and not be up in people's faces and stuff. But she had this large tent and the music was going, everything was great. And I look out on the floor and there's Jesse Norman, who's quite a large person, dancing with Greg Ashford of Ashford and Simpson.
Who's kind of wiry.
Greg's thin and a vegan, and Jesse Norman was not thin. But I was sitting there where I thought, man, I need to shoot this. About the time I felt this thing on my back, this push on my back, and turned around, it was Oprah saying, "Get out there and shoot that. You need to shoot that." Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me, Oprah said I needed to.
Is he right?
Right. I'm with Oprah. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Oprah sent me.
So yeah, that was a fun, and that picture's still around.
We were looking back at it. No, it was a couple years ago. I guess it was when Maya Angelou died, actually.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting us take a break from our awesome interview. We have a very special guest here in the Western Wednesdays studio. It's our Director of Alumni Engagement, Stacy Miller. Stacy, thanks so much for giving us a few minutes of your time.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks for having me today.
Oh, this is great. And so you're a few months on the job now, and we have seen just an amazing amount of engagement over the last few months. Have you felt good hitting the ground running?
It's been great. It's been such an awesome opportunity to connect and meet more of our alumni family. Here in our local Cullowhee area and down to Florida. We were in Florida this past weekend and had such a great time there.
That's awesome. The pictures have looked great. It looks like it was nice and warm down in Florida for the blueberry picking down at Southern Hill Farms. I know we've got some really exciting opportunities for our alumni across the state and the region to reconnect with Western faithful. Can you tell us about some of the upcoming events we've got?
Absolutely. The Office of Alumni Engagement has been busy, and we've got lots of exciting things scheduled and going on. So April 18th, we have a legislative reception over in Raleigh. We would love to have all of our Raleigh area alumni join us for that evening. April 22nd and through the 23rd, we've got our soccer old timers reunion, and we have other sport reunions coming up as well. May 23rd, we are having a gathering of alumni in Wilmington. It's been a while since we've been able to get back to Wilmington, so we're looking forward to seeing our Eastern North Carolina family. And then, of course, July 28th through the 30th, Ben, we have our annual Purple and Gold reunion.
Purple and Gold, awesome event.
Purple and Gold, exciting reunion. We are going to celebrate the 50th reunion of the 1973 class, as well as bringing back the teaching fellows for the first time. So we're really looking forward to that. Registration for that starts this week. I know it seems a long way off, but this week is Right. If we're here.
We're here. It's now. And so softball coming to you. How does one find out more information about any of these events or things going on in Catamount World?
Absolutely. You can always follow us on all of our social media accounts, or you can visit us on our webpage at alumni.wcu.edu.
Thanks so much, Stacy. It's been great talking with you and hearing about these upcoming events. We're going to pitch it back now to our interview with Will and Denny McIntyre.
So you spend decades shooting photography. You do celebrities, you do magazine covers, you do corporate reports, you do stock photography. I'm sure that if I get onto Google, I can find a McIntyre photo somewhere within not much time.
You can. Our SEOs will find us. We're out there, and like you've been around as long as we have. You're definitely findable, searchable.
And then at some point you decide, this could be more fun if the pictures moved and talked.
It wasn't really a choice. By the 90s, we could see changes coming that technology, was bringing. Stock photography had been good for a while, but it was getting to the point where now photographers had websites. Photography, stock houses had been like little fish getting eaten by larger fish, and pretty soon everything was going to be Getty or Corbis, and we were with all of them. And of course, digital capture was coming. We started shooting film back in the day. And then for a long time, even after there were digital cameras, our agencies and our clients wouldn't accept digital capture because the processor's speed was so slow, memory was so small that the resolution was, pretty poor, and it wouldn't, you couldn't enlarge a digital image. It was, it was pretty much 4x5 was kind of the max. But then that changed right around, actually in the late 90s, that sort of changed. But we started to see the writing on the wall that we had traveled. We worked in 80 countries. We just got to the point where we sat down on a long plane trip and took a map and figured this out. But it got to the point where we realized that in the future, if you wanted a photographer in Jakarta, you weren't going to call these rogue elephants in North Carolina and send them to Jakarta. You were going to go to a website of some Indonesian photographer who now, it wasn't a question of, the film stocks wouldn't match. So your color balance would be impossible to, because everybody's going to be digital capture. You want your, color balance to match, just line it up in Photoshop. So we weren't going to get, it was not going to be possible to go on living the way we had been living. And then came 9/11.
And we saw the planes hit the Twin Towers and
Now, were you in Winston-Salem?
We were in Winston-Salem.
Yeah.
Yep. And we turned on the TV, and there it was. And we said, that's going to change the way we do business. And
well, the first thing was that there were no flights.
Yeah.
They shut
Full
down
ground
shut down the sky.
Yeah.
For days, for a week.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then all kinds of new airport security that was going to make it a lot tougher to travel with the equipment that we were used to carting around with us.
We were so spoiled because back in the day, we would go to the Winston-Salem airport and
not even Greensboro. We'd fly out of Winston, INT.
And we knew everybody there at the airport, and they just wave at us as we got on the plane and
walk out on the tarmac, wheeling our stuff, and go here, take care of those are cameras. They'd be like, sure thing.
Try not to drop that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Really, no problem.
Yeah.
Walk up onto the plane.
Yeah.
Zip.
And we knew that wasn't going to happen anymore.
Right.
And so about that same time, we several of our friends had gone over to the dark side of video and had started, shooting things. And our agent in New York asked us to start shooting things with motion. And at the time, stock footage, you didn't shoot any sound. You just did MOS.
Because you were just really supplying B-roll.
Sure.
All stock video was only ever B-roll. I am a manufacturer. I'm Patagonia, and I need some snow shots. Unfortunately, it's July. I just need some background, shots in the snow. So that's what you use stock for, clips
Right.
of it was
Right.
like seasonal stuff and that kind of thing.
And so we did that for a while, and that was mildly interesting, but we learned how to use movie cameras.
Because we didn't know what we were doing enough
no
to take
clue.
assignments. It's like, no, I don't want to be, responsible to somebody else for this working out. Like,
So this is the early 2000s.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
still shooting video on film?
35 millimeter film, real
Yeah.
film.
our first
Canisters of
movie
film.
camera was an Arri 2C, older than I am, obviously bought used. So loud. Oh God, it sounds like a weed whacker. I mean, like a weed whacker actually whacking a picket fence.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You cannot be surreptitious with that. You ran that thing and it'd go. Especially when you
Definitely for
overcrank.
silent movies. It's a silent movies.
But we learned how to do that. We learned how to use that, and
We had to send film to. The hell did we send film?
either New York or Atlanta.
That's right.
To be processed.
Back to the day of you don't know what you got.
Yep.
We used to
Yep.
take a Polaroid back around so that when we were shooting film, we would shoot a Polaroid first and a Polaroid back and go, okay, let's move that light and then we're good to go. But so we started shooting movie film. It was 35 millimeter, and but there's no way to know what we were getting.
Right. Yeah.
So boy,
So it's-
And all along, the rent check still clears, and you just keep reimagining and reiterating. And
kept on changing.
just keep on evolving. I mean, not a lot of photographers our age, there came a point where they go, okay, that's it. This is where I get off the bus. Like, I'm not going to digital.
Right.
We're just not going to go to digital capture.
I've
They were
learned this much.
darkroom denizens.
Right.
They were the kind of tech that they liked was the analog tech, and they
Right.
weren't going to make that jump to electronics. And then it was, oh, stock photography is wrecked. I'm retiring. I mean, there's all these stops along the way where we just said, we're not done yet. Let's go with this and see what happens.
you've embraced the change.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and you keep going.
Why not?
So at some point, you connect with David Holt. And so I'm just curious how you go from photography to now we dabble in videos, we're doing different things, and let's produce a music show.
Well, let's back up, because the David Holt story actually has a start in Cullowhee. Because when I was in school in Cullowhee, I played in a band with a guy named Mark Pruitt, who has an honorary doctorate from Western. Mark's a great banjo player with Balsam Range and played with Ricky
Most recently,
Skaggs
Balsam Range.
and
yeah.
everybody else. Mark's a great guy, still a good friend. And I was playing banjo in his band, and we played the first.
You were playing bass.
I was playing bass in his band, and the first what is now Mountain Heritage Day. At the time, it was called Chancellor's Day or something
Chancellor's
like that.
Day.
So we played. We were the featured
Yeah, believe it or
band.
not.
We were the featured band at that first one, and so
It was Cotton Robinson was the
Cotton
chancellor.
was the chancellor at the time, and so I invited everybody to my sumptuous apartment. You can imagine, as an undergraduate student, what kind of apartment I had. It was not sumptuous. Anyhow, everybody got out on the lawn and we played music. And David was one of the people that opened for the Mark Pruitt band.
No kidding.
And so
He had
Dave,
just come east from
Yeah.
California. He wanted to be closer to the source of, Appalachian mountain music.
so this is 1974. And so we became friends. And so when David started being asked to do State Department tours, he came to me because he said, hey, I'm primarily a storyteller, but when I go out to foreign countries, I want to be able to relate to them. And so we were going to do a tour of Bolivia.
David doesn't speak Spanish.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to have to work through an official translator because he thought that'd be so distancing. So he wanted somebody that he could share, he wouldn't have to be like a one-man everything. Somebody else on stage, preferably somebody who spoke Spanish. And Will had been a Spanish minor.
So I did the show in Spanish and throughout Bolivia. And then we got asked to go to Colombia. And then
And I'd been an exchange student in Colombia.
Yeah.
So I spoke some Spanish too, and then buck danced and all this stuff. So
Yeah. And then David's wife, Jenny, came, and Jenny and Denny would dance, and anyhow, it was a big.
So we did all these tours for the State Department. We did. You did Bolivia with David, but then we did 3 in Colombia, 3 in Brazil, 1 in Venezuela, 1 in Chile,
and we did Uruguay and anyhow, it was so we'd been friends with David for a long time. And so when David came off the road with Doc Watson, he played with Doc for 14 years. When David came off the road, about that same time, we were coming up here to the mountains because Denny's folks in this house
needed a little help.
Needed some help. And so our producer down at University of North Carolina Television, now it's PBS-NC, he said, hey, you guys are tied into the music community. Why don't you do something with music? And so
because we'd just done our first long-form doc for PBS that was Saving the Hanson House, about restoring an late 18th century house in one of the Moravian settlements in Forsyth County, Bethania.
Our producer at PBS-NC, Scott Davis, said, hey, you guys are tied into the music community. Why don't you do something on music? So we called up David and said, hey, you're not working with Doc anymore.
He had just quit. Doc had just come off the road, finally. He just decided, he just couldn't do it anymore.
Right. And so we pitched him the idea, and he said, yeah, I'd love to do it. So, and we worked together we did 6 seasons of David Holt's State of Music. And when we first started doing it, we thought we were just going to do a 1-hour
like
special.
Saving the Hanson House.
It was going to be a documentary.
Yes,
and that's
1 hour, one-off,
Yeah.
Thing. And but our guests were Rhiannon Giddens, Balsam Range,
the Branchettes.
The Branchettes, who were, I guess Lena was already maybe 80 years old, but oh my God, what a voice. And
Bruce Molsky.
Bruce Molsky, fiddler.
And Brian Sutton.
Brian Sutton.
That's what that is.
Yeah, that's what that is. That's lightning fast guitar player.
Classic Brian Sutton.
Brian Sutton.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
And I guess I was like kind of whining about how much we had in the can that I hadn't been able to fit into a PBS hour. And the programmer, Brian Soderman, down at UNC TV said, why don't you go back and re-edit it? Said most programmers, Will had just made contact with the network. They had to push on to do more music programming. And they wanted some diversity, and they wanted it to be like out of the South. They had a whole list that this ticked every box. So he said, why don't you go back and re-edit it into a short series? And you can use some of the extra tunes and stuff that you weren't able to fit into the 1 hour. So I went back and we had our first, that's why our season 1 had 3 episodes. That's why, it was a short season. But that was how we got started doing a series. And then you have to clear a certain bar for the network to renew you for other series.
You have to get at least 30% carriage.
Nationally.
Okay. And so the first year we got something like 50% carriage, which was...
A lot of it was, 4 a.m., the coveted 4 a.m. time slot.
If you're an insomniac in Duluth, Minnesota, you could see our show at 4 a.m.
But we got it.
But you got picked up.
Yeah.
Oh, totally,
Every
and you got
season,
renewed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So it was 2015 was our first. I think so we did six seasons.
So let's talk about Rhiannon Giddens, and because that's the project you've just wrapped up
for
season 1
right.
for national distribution on PBS, TV series with Rhiannon Giddens exploring a lot of what you might think of as underrepresented people in the bluegrass, folk, Americana, this constellation of music genre, and yet these are the origin sources, the origin stories in so many ways, the African roots, the Caribbean roots of this music, and she's here to talk about it and sit down with these folks. Tell us a little bit about this series and how you got involved.
Well, Rhiannon's mission, really, her professional mission, is to reconnect some dots that that really make sense out of our musical traditions in a much more diverse and a much richer way than the straight line stories that people have grown up assuming. There's a lot richer tradition from the African American community, a lot richer influence on really every genre of what we consider to be American music. From, it's not just jazz, it's it's pop and it's bluegrass, and and what Rhiannon wants to do with the series, at least what she wanted to do with season 1, was sort of shine a light on performers whose own careers and whose influences reflect that really rich, sometimes unrecognized influence and tradition. And these are people like, Reese Palmer. I don't know if you know Reese. She lives down in Durham. She's great, but she's in season 1, she's our Nashville person. But, African American woman in Nashville doing country music.
Sure.
And because she grew up, she's from St. Louis. She grew up in Missouri. But she grew up listening to every kind of music in the home and not thinking really that there was white music and black music. She had to be a grown up, and she had to be told, she's like, by her first managers, who were African American. She shared a song with them one day, and they looked at her in befuddlement. It was like, Reese, that's country. And Reese was like, yeah. She said, I wrote it for Reba McEntire. Wait a minute. You wrote a song for Reba McEntire? She's like, yeah. Like, why not? And the other people, everybody that we have on this season 1, has a story kind of like that. It's like, why not?
Yeah.
It came so, these are all things that they feel in their bones that they, are compelled to do. And like Joy Clark, who was told, first of all, I think that girls don't play guitar or girls don't play lead guitar. She's from New Orleans, and she's young, but she's still getting this crap. It's like, somebody who looks like you doesn't do what you're doing. To which the only answer can be, why not?
Why not?
Why not?
Why
and
not?
She's the epitome of, she embodies the refutal of that. She's an incredible guitarist. Wait till you hear. She's just amazing, and played with the Neville Brothers. She did get some opportunities being in New Orleans that she wouldn't have gotten just anywhere. But boy, look out for her, Joy Clark. Allison Russell, who's a Montreal native, but she was in Birds of Chicago for a while. She lived in Chicago for a good long while. Amazing voice and incredible with her partner JT Nero. I heard that they're songwriting partners. Just incredible songwriters. Take a look at their lyrics.
And Charlie Lowry, who's a Lumbee Indian, Lumbee Tuscarora and Iroquois Nation.
Plays hand drum and sings. Great voice. And
guitar player. And so we photographed her down in Robeson County, down in the eastern part of the state. Adia Victoria, who grew up near Tryon, North Carolina, in the shadow of the place where Nina Simone was born.
Right.
So we took her back there to Nina Simone's house and shot her there singing with Rhiannon, and so it was a heavy moment for her to go back to that history, So
that was pretty cool. That was a pretty cool location to be.
What a place!
Yeah,
we did
so
have
much history.
Oh yeah.
You've traveled the world. You've been to more than 80 countries. You've walked on 6 continents. And throughout it all, you've been on one side of a camera exploring this vast spectrum of humanity and bringing it back and sharing it with people. And now you're training your lens on something that is incredibly local. And you're bringing it back to music that this is the cradle of so much of that music, this state in this area. And I guess first of all, are you surprised to find yourself having covered the plethora of subjects that you've covered, coming back to your own backyard? And then second of all, what did you pick up along the way that really prepared you for this moment to where you really can focus in on something that's abundant and familiar if you grew up here, and maybe something you never gave a passing glance to?
Well, I think, you travel to understand you may tell yourself that you travel to understand other places and other people, but in some ways, the most important part of travel is you travel to understand who you are, and you travel to understand your own place. I think all the cultural explorations and so on that we've done, it's coming in very handy with Rhiannon, because she, you can't put this girl in a niche. I mean, she is a woman who bridges lots of genres herself. So it's very handy for us to have so many cultural reference points. Music always reflects its cultural origins. I think having traveled, and we always collected, the fun thing, we always collected when we were traveling, we would buy, I mean, we didn't buy a lot because we already had a lot of gear, so, we didn't come home like with Pier 1, in our bags. But one of the things that we would buy when we traveled was music. We'd, 33 RPM discs, albums.
For you kids at home, a 33 RPM was actually what we called a record.
Put it on what we called a turntable.
A turntable, and it would play what we called music.
Thomas Edison invented that.
Thomas Edison did that. We knew Tom.
You photographed
Tommy,
him.
we called it.
Yeah.
Yes.
They were shot his annual report.
Took all his money. Yeah, damn
We
right.
used to collect, so we would, and then in cassette tapes, like little cassette tapes, and that was those were some of our favorite souvenirs from traveling, where was music. So it's not that much of a stretch to now be working with Rhiannon, who her partner is Italian. She lives in Ireland. She has this history with the Carolina Chocolate Drops.
She's from Greensboro.
She's from Greensboro. She's written an opera. She's written the score for a ballet. She wears a lot of hats herself.
She's been an actress.
She has. She
absolutely.
had a recurring part on the series Nashville.
Right.
And she was supposed to take over whose role in a Broadway show, and then they just killed the show instead. But she's spread herself around probably in a different generation and in a different vector, but not in a totally dissimilar way to what we've done. So we're very comfortable working with her, and I think, yes, it is local, but part of our vision is to make it accessible to a national audience. So we're not playing to North Carolina viewers. With this, we in the course of David Holt's State of Music, we learned to think of our viewership and our audience as national. As we got picked up by more and more affiliates, across the country, we would think, well, how is this going to look in California? And how is this enough of an explanation for people in Montana?
And one of the things that I liked about the David Holt series, and also now about Rhiannon series, is that the word that we keep on hearing from people who see it for the first time, they say, wow, this is authentic. And I think that's the thing that we're certainly in search of, always have been really, is give me an authentic feeling. Give me a song that moves me somehow. And these are real people playing this stuff. This is not, this ain't no, chat bot doing something. These are real people, and you can feel it. And especially with Rhiannon's series, I think the emotion is there in a lot of cases. There are people who are really revealing their souls, through music.
I mean, Rhiannon herself, first of all, nobody gets into folk music on a full-time basis because they're, out to, make their fortune. I mean, clearly.
I tried world domination through folk music, and it did not work.
Through upright bass, folk bass. And Rhiannon herself, I mean, damn, she's the whole nine. She's immensely talented. She's very smart. She's a historian of the music. She plays viola as well as banjo. She, has studied all these different genres of music, and she's just a lovely person. So she has it all. like she can go. You can go anywhere from that lily pad. You know, and so
and the reality of her music is grounded in so many different things.
It's grounded here. I mean, like she's proud of being from Greensboro. She loves to be from North Carolina. She still has family in Greensboro, and she always wants, you know, she brings the kids here from Ireland so that they know where, you know, something about her, you know, growing up environment and so on, and they know their grandparents. And she'll always come. I think she'll always come home here, no matter where she's based and no matter what she's doing.
And I think part of what we like to do is to bring in information from sources that weren't available 30 years ago. Rhiannon's a perfect example. She is very hip to who is playing the music, where those roots come from, the Caribbean influences, you know, in the rhythm, the African influenced people who are playing the music now. So it's kind of up to us to sort of get it on the camera, set the microphones up and stand out of the way and just let people listen to that. And once they hear it, they go, well, dang, I've been listening to this all my life and now I hear it because somebody pointed it out to me.
Well, I can tell that your English degrees have been put to good use. You're both excellent storytellers here, and you do it obviously very well through the medium of a television series, and it's exciting. So when does this show come out on PBS?
May 1st, 2023. The first episode of My Music with Rhiannon Giddens will be fed to affiliate stations around the country. Unfortunately, they won't all show it at the same time, so you have to check your local listings.
As they say,
check your local listings.
You can also go to our website closer to the time to May 1st. You can go to our website, or actually,
it's actually a website that's been created for the show.
It's mymusicrg
for Rhiannon Giddens.
.org.
mymusicrg.org.
And you can go there, and there's a little thing that says, it's a little widget that lets you put in your area code, your zip code, and it tells you when it's going to be on. So even if you're in Minnesota or someplace foreign like that, you can find out when it's going to be on.
And, you know, we're hoping, we know that it'll be covered by PBS-NC because they're our presenting station. So we kind of feel like, I mean, that's like, yes, my mom will buy one copy. You know, like it's kind of, mom will show it.
Well, I am confident that a lot of people will be watching it. Danny, Will, thank you so much. This has been tremendous.
It's been a pleasure.
Great
James.
to talk to you.
Thank you so much, Will and Denny McIntyre. That was amazing, James.
Oh my gosh, it was really fun talking to those guys. I got to meet Cookie too, by the way. You saw Cookie in the interview. Cookie is like the best dog in the world and is spoiled. But yes, it was so fun to get to sit down with those two and hear those stories and the work they're doing. Remember to check their PBS episode out, or their PBS series out, coming out real soon with Rhiannon Giddens.
You know, the investment that they have made in living their life and in making sure that people have access to the arts and passing it on, and their investment in our students here at Western Carolina University through the scholarship. It really is terrific.
They're great people. And you know what else is great, Ben? This is coming to you in April, but just about a week ago, end of March, something called One Day for Western. It was our first time ever doing a campus-wide giving day. And oh my gosh, did people show up.
I remember when this idea started getting floated around the office, and our director of annual giving, Rebecca Cheney, whoa, Rebecca just walked into the room.
My gosh.
Rebecca, I remember you walking around the room and talking about One Day for Western, and we all started getting up and singing Les Mis. And so you got to get in here, Rebecca. Come here and talk to us about One Day for Western. We have
She's
one microphone and one chair here.
She's
Rebecca.
walked into the studio. We only have two microphones. Hi, Rebecca Cheney, Director of Annual Giving at WCU. Welcome to Western Wednesdays.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. All right, so you've just wrapped up One Day for Western. How'd it go?
Oh, wow. I don't even have words to articulate just how amazing that Catamount Nation is. You guys showed up for our very first All In Giving Day. And it was just so exciting to watch. No lie, James and I were here late watching the gifts tick in. We had a great time. And you guys, just the way that you showed up for our students and for our programs is just so inspiring. And it was an awesome day.
So we started with a goal of 800 donors. And how did we finish?
So we finished as of now, and I'm still inputting gifts as we speak. I know this is coming out a little later, but we are at 1,070 gifts.
That's incredible.
Over $260,000.
260, so more than $250,000. That was all gifts to a big number of designations, right? Scholarships, Catamount Athletics, the Honors College, the Literary Festival, the College of Engineering and Technology.
Don't forget the Pride of the Mountains marching
The Pride
band.
of the Mountains marching band to help them get to Ireland. Oh my gosh, just great, great stuff. Do you want to do it again?
Well, yeah, I'd actually like to do it again. What do you think?
Let's do it next year. Let's tee it up for next year.
Yeah, we'll do it again. It's going to be even better. And I know that's kind of hard to believe right now where we're sitting, but I'm just so excited. We've learned a lot, and it's going to be great.
Yeah, Rebecca, if somehow somebody missed One Day for Western, can they still make a gift?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, all you got to do is hop on over to give.wcu.edu and just type in whatever you're passionate about. There's a few that will pop up automatically, but if you want to give somewhere else, just type it in and we'll make sure to get it all squared away.
Awesome. Our students are worth it. Our programs are worth it. And so thank you to everybody who gave on One Day for Western. Rebecca, thank you for all your work on that. We really appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank
Awesome.
y'all. I'll let
right.
Ben have his seat back. Are you going to do a rendition of Les Mis now, please?
Do you hear the people give?
We don't have the licensing for that.
Oh, sorry.
We'll have to block out James singing Les Mis now. With all due appropriateness.
Ben, it's been a great month. It's been a great what a great episode. Great interview, great updates. Thanks for being here today, man.
Oh, it's great to be here, and I can't wait to see what we have in store for this season, James. Thank you.
I know. Next month, we're going to be talking about engineering and technology. College of Engineering and Technology is a growing college, growing programs here at WCU, and we have a lot going on there.
It's an amazing, it really is to think about the growth of engineering and advanced manufacturing, especially in the western part of the state. And I can't wait to have some further conversations about it. You won't want to miss it.
Yeah, we'll talk to some engineering alumni, and we'll also hear about, first of all, how Western is the only college of engineering west of I-77. So like for an entire third of the state. And we know the jobs are out there. The demand is out there for these kinds of skills. So it's an important degree. Ben, thanks again. Oh my gosh, great to be with you today. Great interview, great show. Just so excited to look forward to our next episode. So from Cullowhee, thank you for watching. Thanks to Sam Wallace and everybody behind the production staff here. Go Cats!